Now, when you boot it up, you'll get into the recently used tab. It's going to have all your recently used music. In this case, we have it for each Sunday. And if we head back to projects, you can see over here, we have all of our projects. Each one's going to have the music for the Sunday. So let's go March 8th here. You can see we have our music, Holy, Holy, Holy. And then we have our Glory Patri. And if we click through, we can see each element. So we have all of our slides here. We have Sooner Count the Stars. And then we also have main, which is our main screen. This is usually going to have a background to it. Now, if we go down here to the shows tab, it's going to have all of the elements for the shows. So we're going to go, we have songs here. We have all our songs loaded up in here. And then we have over here in orders of worship, we have our Apostles' Creed, Nicene Creed, Glory Patri, basically what we use every week or so. And we swapped out occasionally, but just for keeping, we'll have main, which is going to be this main screen here. Let's create a new template. Template for Sunday. That's March 8th, 2025. And you can tell I've done this before. There we go. And then we'll have our main, and then we'll have Glory Patri right here, the Nicene Creed, and everything else is blank. If you go back to this one, you can tell we have music. It's the exact same thing, but with music, because each Sunday is different music that we have in here. So let's go back to this. Now, in here, we have our songs. Back to the shows tab, we have our songs, and we'll have all of our music in here. So let's say we wanted Sooner Count the Stars, and we're just going to drag and drop it in here. We'll have it right over here. Now, a cool feature I like about FreeShow is if you go from the show tab to the edit tab, you can edit it like normal. So let's say you want all your way. That's not the correct way of doing it, but let's say we wanted to spell check something. Now you can tell over here, this is the primary, it's a preview. It's going to show what's on the screen. If we hit the refresh, but that's not the cool part. The cool part is if we go back to the edit tab, we hit text edit, you can view it as text. So this is super useful for importing songs. You need to mass edit something. Or let's say you need a new verse to put in. It's a lot easier to edit in here generally than just to create a new slide and then copy and paste stuff over, that kind of thing. Now, if you also see in here, you can see there's these brackets that say verse in it. This song has a chorus, so it says chorus right here. That will appear over back in the show tab. You see over here, we have chorus 1, chorus 2, verse 1, 2, and 3. Now these are groups, so that's going to contain all the lyrics in that group. So you see chorus 2, this is highlighted in pink. It's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 slides. And let's say we want the chorus to repeat on the last one. So we'll just click this again, and it'll paste in another chorus right here. And you can see it says 1 and then 2 and little grayed out numbers. And that's super useful for like last minute editing or other stuff like that. So let's remove this by remove group. There we go. And you can see it's gone and it doesn't have the little number anymore. Now, the next cool thing about this is the media tab. Next to the shows, you click on media, you can load in a YouTube video. So if you had a new YouTube video, you just paste in the link to it. If you wanted a nature, there's some preloaded stuff. If you wanted a DVD screensaver, you can do that. If you had like a church video, you can also load it in here. You don't need it as a background, but in this case, I use this here. This is Pixabay. This is going to have mostly useful images as backgrounds. So let's say we want this song to have this landscape, the sea ice thing. If you just drop it on the first verse, it'll apply it to all of them. And then now click on it again, you can tell it loaded it up. But if you tell on this left side, you can see that there is no image in the background. Now that's on purpose. So if we go over to settings, we have our outputs over here on the left. And right over here, we have live and primary. So this is going to correspond to this up here. We can add another one if you wanted to, but in this case, I'm just going to keep it to these two. Primary is going to have just the screen, so we can select what screen we want the primary display to. So this would be your projector or your display for the lyrics. You can click, in this case, I'll just click 1, close that out. And that way, when we hit this button up here, present, it's going to show up on my bottom screen. Now over here, we have our live. And it's a little bit different. We enabled NDI, which NDI is just a network streaming option, which will stream this output over NDI. So if we have OBS configured or another tool, we can receive that output in OBS. So this will be separate than the rest of them. And then if we go over here and click invisible window, this will just disable using the physical screen for it. And then we'll also do transparent because we want a transparent background, because I usually like to overlay this over the video of the church feed or whatever. And this is going to be on the live stream itself, just to make it a little bit easier to read. And then with this as well, you can enable a style. So if you want a separate style output than the primary, you can configure one. And you can see in primary, we have our main, and then live, we have live main. And if we go over to styles on the left side here, some of the more basic things that I have set up are the background. So this is the main style that's going to be here. You can toggle the background, whether we want the background to show up on the main tab. If we go over to live main, I have it configured no background because that takes up more network usage and I just want it to overlay over the video feed as a transparent overlay. And then you can see over here, we have an override over the template that's being used. So templates are going to be how the text is formatted or shown on screen. We go back to the show tab. Let me show you how the templates work. Down here, if you go past audio and overlays and go to templates, these aren't organized super well right now, but I'll figure that out later. You have music version 2. This is my current template that I use for all the lyrics. If you just click on it, it'll apply. It's already applied to the show, but if we didn't have that, if we had another template, let's say we went to some unlabeled ones. Let's say we went to a template that has this. Until the font changes, the size and everything else. So let's go back and select music version 2 and click it. It applies to all of them. And then if we want to edit how this template layout is, because this is not a default one, I can right click it and then click edit. And this is just going to be the default. This is just going to be how the lyrics are shown on screen. In this case, I have 2 text boxes. And this is kind of very similar to the other edit tab, but it's a template. So if we wanted to, let's say we wanted to make all the lyrics font size of 50, just a lot smaller. You can tell it's smaller. And then we go back to show. You can see in here it reloaded. Now it's not reloaded on here until we hit the refresh. There we go, and you can see it made it a lot smaller. But let's go back and change that. Let's go back to this. I believe it was around 70 or so. There we go. Now once we applied that, we go back to show, and you can see it changed it back to the normal size. Now for the live section, we have a different template, as you can see. And this is music version 2. Ignore the naming. I just haven't got around to fix it. And that's just going to have a simple background, and that's just going to be a black background or a semi-transparent background that goes under it. And then this is going to apply to anything that's shown on the screen to the live section. So if we went over to Gloria Patri, it's going to see here, you can see it's formatted that way. So if we click on it, we can preview it, and this is how it's going to preview. And then we can go back to the primary screen, it's going to preview as that. Now, that's not all the cool features. It has a couple other ones that we use that probably not meant to how it's supposed to be used, but if we go over to the main tab here, in this case, it is glitching like crazy. It probably, on my demonstrations, messed it up. Now if we go back to our main tab, you can tell we have a couple of, they're called sections here, but this says create, music, start. These aren't necessarily the show items. If we click on it, there's nothing here. However, when we go through and we use our slideshow, so let's say this is on a Sunday and we're presenting, you watch the primary screen here, we hit our arrow key forward, you tell it skips to this, and we hit our arrow key forward again. It goes to Gloria Patri, and click it, and it loads on screen. Now, what happens in between is each time we go to one of these, it triggers a HTTP request. Now, an HTTP request is basically a command that's sent over, and in our case, we use OBS. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to send a request to our OBS telling it to switch the scenes. So we have 2 different scenes in OBS, and I'll probably show this in another video. 2 different scenes in OBS. One of them has the live overlay to it. The other one just has a straight camera, and we want to be able to switch between both. But as you progress through this, so let's say we have main, back to main here. We click this, and then we click here. Now what happens in between is it sends a command to OBS show just the main camera. We don't need, shows the main screen. Then if we go to, let's say, Gloria Patri, it goes back, sends another command, tell it to show the lyrics on screen or the overlay on screen in OBS, and that shows the live stream. Now if we go over to our functions tab, you can see here I have all my functions. So these are just going to send a request. I believe if I send a HTTP request, there we go. In this case, actually, we're using a request to Companion, which is another software. It doesn't really matter for the case of this video, but you can do this with just OBS as well. And this just sends a request telling it to switch to the main screen or the wide camera shot. And then it also says a template on the active show. Only reason I do this is sometimes FreeShow has an issue with templates, and you kind of have to mangle it a little bit. And this just kind of forces the fact to use the right template. And this only gets triggered when the main slide, which is this one here, is on screen. So when it's selected, you You can see over here we have our main. This little flag symbol means that it's running a function. So if we click on this and we do category action, you can see it triggers the main slide. So that just makes sure once we click on this, it's going to then trigger this main slide, which then sends the HTTP request to OBS and then also applies the template on the current slide. So it'll apply a template on this. Even though it already has one, I want to enforce that it does it correctly, just because sometimes I've had issues where if I have one already loaded or something like that, it messes up. And then we have the same thing for the song. So if we go over here, and then we see that when there is a song loaded, so let's see songs, this little symbol means it's part of this category. You see there's another flag here. If I click and check the category action, it has music slides. So this is a separate function called music slides, which sends a very similar request. It just tells it to go to the scene in OBS that has the overlay. So it says switch to overlay. We want to see this on screen. It also enforces the template on show. So that's why if you see, if there's a bug or something, like if I edit something weird here. So I think FreeShow fixed most of the issues, but there can be glitches here and there. However, they're still updating every week, and I can understand where they're coming from when it happens. You just kind of have to work around some things. And then we have the same for Nicene Creed. We have, I believe, a very similar, if not the same, to Orders of Worship. They're in a separate category. If we wanted another kind of trigger action that would happen, then songs would. Orders of Worship slides, which I believe is just a copy of music slides. If we go here, edit, sends HTTP request and sets the app template on the active show. And that's most of the features that we use for our church. There's probably a couple more that are escaping me. There's audio. There's some really cool work there that's done. You can do a metronome that just clicks. And that one's pretty useful. I haven't used it for anything yet, but it seems like it'd be useful for some churches. You can also select which output you want. You can also go over to Mixer if you had another sound. So if we have this song, you can boost it, you can send it through. And recently, they added NDI audio output. And so you can send over the audio that is coming from FreeShow if you wanted it through OBS. If you're playing a video or something like that, you can do that. You can also direct microphones. So if you wanted custom microphones through here, you can mix it with the main mix or send it out another way, which is pretty useful. There's also overlays, which we don't use. There is Scripture. Now, Scripture is something I want to start using as it has some really cool features. So let's say we wanted a book of, let's say the book of Ecclesiastes. I just typed ECC and it automatically knew what book I was talking about. Let's say we want 3:12. I have no idea what verse this is going to be. There we go. And you can see here we have 3:12. And if I hit enter, it's going to show that on screen. Now you can customize how it shows on the screen when a scripture is. I believe that's with a template right here. I have a custom template and you can select which one you want. And it'll show on screen. Now if you have multiple verses, you just do 3:12, then you type it like you normally would. So 3:12, let's say dash 22. We want all those verses. It's a new show, 11 verses. Then you can show reference. You can customize how many verses on screen you want. Hit new show. And then you can see here we have all of our things here. And this will be useful for certain things. We use it for the live on Bible studies. We have our on-screen scripture. If you do use scripture for references or other stuff, this is super useful. And it'll save it later as well, and you can pull it back. But you can import your own Bible. I imported NKJV, as that was not a default. But if you want one that's already on here, you can import local, or you can do an API. They have a bunch of versions in here you can pull from, and you can load your own if you wanted to. And I believe that's basically all of it for FreeShow. I'll just show real quick what a final one looks like. This is what the final songs for Sunday might look like. We usually have images behind them, but I still have to load those in. There's some really cool stuff with that as well, but that's about it. And there's also some really cool, real quick before we end it, slideshow features. So if you had a presentation, you can also do this over the web, but you can do drawing. So let's say, let's do a paint. You can paint over this. I have a weird effect. Let me change that. There we go. If you want to paint, you can undo that as well, I believe. Clear drawing. You say hi, however you want it. And you can see it applies it over the text here. You can also do zoom if you want an effect. If there is a person using an iPad or something like that, or trying to point things out, or you add a PDF or some kind of presentation, you can also do that, highlighting and those kind of things. There's also a stage. You can show the next slide and what's coming up next. There's a lot of really cool features. I recommend looking at their docs. And that's about it.